There we go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. How you all doing? Can you hear us? Just give us a thumbs up that you can hear us. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so welcome. We are so thrilled to have you join us for our very first on-cue interview at Center Stage.
Yeah.
So I want to let you know that, as you know, over the past 5 months, we have all been trying to reinvent ourselves due to the COVID pandemic. And we are one of the only industries that is still not open.
As you can see behind us, all the seats are empty. These
Except for
are
one.
real seats, except for our special guests, of course.
Absolutely. And like theaters, other theaters around the world, we are all fighting to survive. So we are so thrilled to have you all here. If you feel like giving something, there will be a link for it's a pay as you can. If you can, that's great. We would love that. If not, relax, enjoy. We are all in the same boat.
Relax and enjoy your money.
All good. And
There'll be no arm twisting, of course.
there will be no arm twisting. So let us let you know what is going on at Center Stage. Grant, do you want to?
Right. So this on-cue interview series that we're starting tonight, we're very excited about. We plan to do this every Sunday night.
Every Sunday night?
Every Sunday night. We have guests
Sunday.
lined up to eternity.
I'm not available next Sunday.
I'll live here if I have
Sunday
to.
night.
Mike, are you
And,
available?
I'll let Danny tell you about what's happening on Wednesdays.
Well, in addition to the on-cue interviews, we are starting the Coffee Club, which will take place on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Basically, it's like a lecture series, maybe a little bit more interactive. And we are very lucky to have on Wednesday, the 12th, Julie Gray and Gidon Lev, the writer and the subject matter of the book, The True Adventures of Gidon Lev, Rascal Holocaust Survivor and Optimist.
Promises to be very, very interesting.
Absolutely. This book is getting some rave reviews, so it
read it.
promises
It's
to
great.
be really, really great. In addition, we are holding on the 22nd of August, we are holding our very first 48-hour, 5-minute play contest. Sounds really complex, I know, but it's not. Basically, what is happening is that we have asked a group of very talented actors to come together, and we've challenged them to put together a 5-minute play within 48 hours. We have asked you, our audiences, to give us 5 items or phrases that they then have to incorporate into this 5-minute play, and they will present their work on the 22nd of August, where you will be able to view that work
And judge.
so you can choose your very own, your favorite play from that 48-hour, 5-minute play. It's going to be a hoot, that's for sure. It's going to be a hoot. So,
Without further delay, we'll get on with the show, and we'd like to introduce our first guest, which we're honored to have here tonight, Lenny Ravich. Yeah.
say hi.
Hi, I'm honored to be here.
Now, Lenny spent the early part of his childhood in special education classes because he was diagnosed as overly joyous.
Yes.
Okay, today, I'm going to ask you about that in a second, but today he is a humor and optimism expert and facilitates workshops, seminars, and presentations on the subject of humor and optimism for success, happiness, and powerful relationships. No pressure. No pressure. It's all good. And he does these presentations in Israel Lenny is the best-selling author of The Eternal Optimist, Everlasting Optimist, Optimism, and Everlasting Optimism.
I'll give you 5 more minutes to get it right. Go ahead. Everlasting optimism.
I love it.
Okay.
We can't hear you. No sound.
Thank you so much. We are trying to deal with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant.
Can't hear. No sound.
I'm watching Grant and Danny at the theater.
Can you
and
read
they're
lips?
No. Yeah. No, gone.
Oh, you can hear me. So good evening, everyone. And welcome to our first show of... I will interview myself, since you can't hear them. So Lenny, tell us, how are you? Well, now is my best moment, because there is no other moment. Thank you. I make that decision every moment of my life. How are you? Now is my best moment. You can? Can you hear me? You can't hear them. So I will interview. So you said that I was in a special education class. If you would like to talk about that or something else, is that all right?
That's okay.
Can they hear you?
You tell them what I've asked you.
Okay, so you ask me and then I'll repeat it. Yes.
So, how did you get to be so happy, Lenny? Was it something innate, hereditary, or
Something I ate? It's something innate. Oh, in. Yes, yes. Very fine fellow. In Schwartz, his name is. And he ate something. So it was something innate that made me very, very happy. Well, I like to make people laugh. This sort of gave me a feeling of, meaningful in life. So I would sit in class and I would draw, but I would draw war. And do you need sounds for that? And so I would be sitting there going, and I looked up and I saw all the other kids in class laughing. But there was one woman in class who didn't appreciate my getting more attention than she. That was the teacher. So she put me in the corner and said, you sit here and the class will be there. And I was lonely. I mean, I was in heaven as long as the children were laughing with me, but now I'm in hell because they're laughing at me. So in order to bring myself to heaven again, I asked myself, what is it that would bring heaven to me? And then I thought of peanut butter. So I opened a can of peanut butter and I smelled it and took a knife and put it in and plucked out some peanut butter and put it on a cracker and then put it in my mouth to see if I could taste it. Wonderful. And I was so happy that I made myself another one. Until finally I looked up and I saw the teacher looking at me. And she was looking at me as if she saw a disturbed child. And I didn't want to disappoint her. So I said, excuse me, teacher. Her name was Miss Grant. No. That's your name, Grant. So, and I asked her, I said, do you want one? So she couldn't handle me because teachers are not supposed to handle children. They have to teach the material. The only problem is the kids are spending all their time making sure the teacher doesn't do that. So she sent me to a guidance counselor who asked me, Leonard, does your mother tell you stories? And I said, yes. And she said, what stories does your mother tell you? And I said how she was raped by the Cossacks. And so she sent me to a social worker who used to call me God every time she saw me. Every time I came, she said, "My God, it's you again." So I went to tell my friends that she calls me God, and I came back with all my friends, and I knocked on her door, and she opened it up, and she said, "Jesus Christ." I said, "I was his father yesterday. You're embarrassing me in front of my friends." So she sent me to a psychologist to check my IQ, and the psychologist was a wise guy, and he said, "I came to check your IQ to shake your head." So I shook my head, and he said, "I can hear your lonely IQ bouncing around." And I said, "Could you please shake your head?" And he went like this, and I said, "I don't hear anything." So what happened was I got this wonderful feeling because, can you hear now?
Can you hear us? Yes, yes.
Yes,
we have
we can
people
be
saying
heard.
yes.
We are
Praise
heard.
the Lord.
Yes.
Yes, we are back.
And now we're starting over.
Yeah, from the beginning. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Center Stage.
Thank you so much for being patient with us. And Lenny,
Patient, I
thank you.
loved every minute of
I
it.
know, and you just took it away. I'm so proud of you, Lenny.
You can invite me every week.
We
As long as you
will.
don't pay me, I'll be here.
Absolutely. Now, Lenny, you said well, we can hear that you were born in the US.
Yes.
You were raised in the US?
Yes,
And how did you come to Israel?
by LL. By the way, LL used to be every landing always late. It became every luggage always lost. And now it's everlasting liability. But this really happened. This is a true story. I'm sorry. But I was an actor in New York. I was a Shakespearean actor. And I decided that I wanted to travel around the world, and I didn't have any money. And a friend of mine said to me, "You don't need money. Just go to the Jewish agency on Park Avenue and tell them you're Jewish. And you get a free ticket to Israel, and you get citizenship and so forth and so on." And so I said, well, and they even told me if I stayed longer, I could have 6 months of studying Hebrew. Ulpan and pocket money. And I said, "Where is this place?" And she said, "Israel." I said, "Where is that?" And I didn't know where it was. So I ran to we didn't have the phone in those days. We had to go to the library, and I looked it up. I said, "Bring me some maps." And I looked. I couldn't find Israel. I saw Syria. I saw Lebanon. I saw Turkey. But there was no, until finally I went out into the Mediterranean, and there was something there that said Israel.
Out in the Mediterranean Sea.
The Mediterranean Sea.
Okay.
With an arrow pointing to
we were
where
an island.
Israel is supposed to be, but it was too small to put the word Israel in. And I just made a decision. I'm going. That's it. So I went to the Jewish agency, and I said, "Give me my ticket on El Al, because I'm going to Israel. I'm a Jew." And the agent there said, "Wait a minute. Do you have a family there?" I said, "No." "You have friends there?" I said, "No." "You speak Hebrew?" I said, "No." He said, "What is your profession?" I said, "Shakespearean actor." He said, "You're going to be very, very successful." I said, "How do you know?" He said, "Because in the Psalms of David it is written that God protects schmucks like you." And I felt like I was a protected schmuck. God is protecting me because I'm a schmuck. If God be with me, who can be against?
Oh, absolutely, Lenny.
And that's how he became who I am. Thank you. Now pay me.
Oh, wow, Lenny. So, Lenny.
So Lenny, I read your first book. Remind me the name of your first book.
My first book was called in Hebrew. Did you read?
I read it in English.
Oh, a funny thing happened on the way to enlightenment.
A funny thing happened on the way to enlightenment, and that's a lot of your stories about how you adjusted to Israel.
Yes.
And so you've got children and grandchildren here now.
I have.
Married first, I'm sure.
Oh, you had to get married too. That's also.
No, I had grandchildren without getting married. Duh. Yeah, I think I got married. Yeah. What is the question?
You got married. How did you meet your wife?
Yes.
I was teaching English in Eilat. There's a place on the south of Israel. It's right across from Jordan. And I woke up and said, today I'm going to meet my wife. This is a true story. November the 5th, 1965. And I walked out on the beach and I really expected to see her because that was a decision I made. Today is the day I meet my wife. And then I heard her voice. And I said, that's her. Now, she didn't know. Now, you know, when you go to, how do I introduce myself to her? Hi, my name is Lenny Ravich, and I'm your husband. Or bad pickup line. You don't go to a bar. Hi, you're my wife.
Works in the gay community. Works in the gay community.
That's good. That is good. So I walked over to her, and within 3 weeks we were married, and that's now 9 grandchildren. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so Lenny, you said that you are a Shakespearean actor.
Yes, I was.
And you are a presenter and a author.
And a what?
An author. I'm
An
sorry.
author? Yes.
We speak in English, the Queen's English. Yes.
You're having an influence
an
on me
actor,
now.
a presenter, an author, and so much more. How many professions have you actually had in your lifetime?
Starting with being a newspaper boy.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That far back?
Washed dishes in college. Then I became a radio announcer.
Oh.
And then a television announcer. And that was when I forgot my name because I was Lenny Ravich and people were calling up to speak to Leonard Garbage. So I said, I have to change it. And I changed it and I forgot it when I was on the air. I became the first radio and television announcer in the history of the United States to forget his name during a live broadcast. And then I became...
And you were still young. You weren't even like heading towards...
I was in my 20s, and then I became an actor, and then I became a teacher, and then I became a supervisor of English teachers, and then I became a Gestalt therapist for about 28 years, and then I decided to teach people how to have a good time in life because I believe that's why we were born, and there is a certain way of looking at life so that you can be more optimistic and happy, and we were born for joy. We were born for love, and anything else other than that in our lives is really a waste of time. And you could do that during the Corona.
I was just going to say, Lenny, how do you keep that optimism during Corona?
Well, my wife came to me and said, you know, we're over 80 and we're vulnerable. We could die from Corona. So I said, bye. and then I also realized that being 84, I'm 84 now, you don't do anything and you don't go anywhere. And so Corona is really very, very suitable for me because everybody now in the world is like me. Nobody goes anywhere, does anything. And I realized also that if I have nothing to do and nowhere to go, where do I find the time to do all that? And I also found that during the Corona that getting sick and dying is not the worst thing in the world. Dying during the Corona is the worst thing in the world. Who the heck is going to come to the funeral? You know, don't people think about their funerals and who's going to be there, who's going to talk? And then you find you have a funeral, 2 people come.
It's going to be on Zoom.
That's disgusting. You know? It's the only reason I, decided that by the way, there was a law. I don't know if you remember this. You couldn't go 100 yards from your house or something, 100 meters. And so I walked 100 meters, and then I sat down. And then I got up and walked another 100 meters and sat down. And then I walked another, and then I went to my favorite park. And then I didn't want to break the law, so I used the same system coming back home. And
100 meters at a time.
yeah. Yes.
But how did that sort of like override the law of 100 meters just by sitting down?
I only walked 100 meters.
Are you at a time?
And then I sat down.
Okay.
And so when I said, well, I think I'd walk another 100, I don't want to break the law.
100 meters at a time.
Well, I had the same thing with my doctor. I asked him, at my age, how many wines can I drink? How many glasses of wine? He said 2. So I went for a second opinion. And I got the same answer, so now I'm up to 4. the same system.
Okay. Oh, Lenny, so now we get to the really serious questions.
Oh,
What was your first car?
my first car in Israel? Or
First car ever?
my first car ever was a Buick, 1941. My father bought it for me when I was 16 or 17, 16. He bought me a 1941 Buick for $110. And it had a radio.
Wow. And how much would it cost today? A 1941
Buick?
Buick? Yeah.
You couldn't bribe somebody to steal it.
$110 plus tip.
There's got to be some value to it. There's got to be some value to it.
A 41 Buick? You can find it probably in Cuba.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Good smuggling card. Good
Okay,
smuggling
next
card.
question. Moving on. Your favorite dish and why?
My favorite dish is Grace. She is a dish. I mean, I was in love with her from the time I was 11.
No, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there. Okay.
What
This is
a
a family
dish. Now let's
program,
talk
Lenny.
about
Wait, Lenny.
What a tomato.
Dish. What do you like to eat, honey? And keep it
That's not going to change the story.
keep
Play
it
with it.
clean, Lenny.
This is
What
going
is your
live,
favorite
right?
dish in terms of food? Please, I'm blushing. And it's
What do I like to eat?
yes, in terms of
At
food.
my
In
age?
terms of food.
I really like spaghetti.
Oh, good.
Yeah, my wife makes wonderful spaghetti, but that's all she does. So I like it.
No,
No,
is
she's
this
really a great cook.
is this a spaghetti and meatballs, spaghetti
Spaghetti
bolognese?
with meat, and also she makes it with fish.
Oh, with
Yeah,
fish.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Spanish fish. Very good. Excellent. Yes.
Wow. We're
Yeah.
gonna have to get that recipe.
Yeah. My wife is what is called Sfaradi, which is the Spanish. So she comes up with all these Spanish dishes, like spaghetti.
Spanish dish like
Yeah.
spaghetti.
Pizza.
I think you're gonna have to speak to the wandering Israeli because I think you've got your sort of like countries mixed up, but that's okay.
Are the lights going out now too?
So in February, Lenny, you were here at Center Stage and you had us really whirling with laughter.
Yeah.
You did the Dance Life, Don't Drag It.
Dance life, don't drag it. Yeah.
Dance Life.
Dance life, don't drag
I
it.
have
Come
to do
on,
an
let's
American
get it right.
Dance Life,
That New
Don't
York
Drag It.
life. You guys
And
talk like it's from
you
somewhere else.
you had us rolling with laughter even when you were doing gibberish with a member of the audience, and I'd just like to share that moment with everyone
was doing
because that was
gibberish.
gibberish.
Oh yeah, there was somebody in the audience who spoke Romanian.
Yes,
And
it
I don't
was
speak Romanian,
absolute
yes.
gibberish. So let's have a look at it now.
Nu se poate gata. Bă, ce poate ca ce nu cucu? Nu se poate zia băgare, da? Nu se poate că îmi tuhesc.
Prim-ministru Trudeau.
A, Trudeau? Și tragi în procesia, da. Și totuși Give me sure that you How was she, huh?
Yeah, I love the sound on that one. We have to get used to Zoom. This is a new reality.
We have to.
This is,
I think-
I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I really
Thank
do.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it too. We, like I said, we're trying to reinvent things
Yes,
and
yes.
give a platform to artists, both young and old, so that they can really sort of expose themselves to new audiences. No, not that way. Their talents. And so now we're going to move on to Mike
Oh,
a little
God.
bit. Mike
Let's move
Kroll.
on to
What?
Mike.
Save the best
What?
for first.
Let's move
I
on
feel
to
like
Mike.
singing that song. What does someone say about Maria? How does one?
How does one solve a problem
Like Maria. So how does one solve a problem? Well, I don't want to say problem, but conundrum like Mike Kroll. Now,
Tell the
Mike
authorities
Kroll-
when you figure it out.
Mike Kroll is a real character, but don't let that fool you. Okay. He is super smart, super cool, super funny, and super talented. And Charles Golding, if you are listening, that one was for you. And you understand why. Now, Mike is an only child. His mom is a forensic pathologist in Laredo, Texas. He calls El Paso his hometown, but he lived in Hawaii and Alabama. He studied psychology and biology at university and earned his MA in social work with a specialty in crisis and trauma studies. Now, you would think that we would be talking about a serious macho guy. Think again. Mike, welcome to the show. Let me just give the people a little bit of a taste of what you do.
But I will say I would make a great prime minister. Like, my first point of order would be I would have etiquette classes for every bus driver in Israel. I think that would be great. And I would have etiquette classes for Israelis, and the entire class is 30 seconds. It's this. This is the bus. You're going to form a nice orderly line to get on the bus. And we're all going to take our time and say please and thank you. I'm going to charge 10,000 shekels. It's the newest startup. It's called Don't Be a Dick. Will someone give me some seed money?
So welcome, Mike. We're honored to have you here at the theater today. My first question is, tell us why you got into comedy.
The police said I had to do something productive with my time outside of the jail cell. I actually started comedy, oh my goodness, 12 or 13 years ago. I know, I look 16, but I'm secretly 87 years old. I followed Lenny's advice, I'm going to live forever. I got started.
So far, so good.
I got started in comedy about 12 or 13 years ago. I was the only Jewish student at a private Baptist university in Belton, Texas, a wonderful university called the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor. And I was the only Jewish student, and people didn't really like me because I was Jewish, and that's a really dumb reason. There's a lot more reasons to hate me. And so I gave them a few. I was supposed to do 5 minutes of stand-up comedy, something I'd never done before, but really what I did was about 10 or 15 minutes of this kind of observational, critical humor on what the Christian education system was like to a Jewish student. Like, I was a pre-veterinary science major. Obviously, I'm not doing that now. You're welcome, Mom. I was studying veterinary science at a very religious institution, and I still had to take 2 semesters of church, a semester of Old Testament studies, and a semester of New Testament studies. I, to this day, cannot name the 14 apostles. I have no idea who they are. I can't tell you which number Jesus was, but I can tell you the response from Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord. I'm not even allowed to say it. I made a deal with the devil a long time ago. So I did these 10 to 15 minutes of stand-up, and what I thought was going to be a crowd of maybe 20, 30 of my soon-to-be enemies, currently peers, turned out to be a crowd of over 100 people. I think the audience cap was 150 or 200 people, mostly graduates in their 40s or 50s, came to this little talent show and watch this, Jew get on stage and say terrible, terrible things. And I got a standing ovation at the end of this set. And a famous Christian comedian walked up to me and he said, you didn't have a strong exit. And I said, no Jew ever does. We always get lost. But aside from that, I'd love to do this again. And ever since then, I kind of got the bug to do it. And I took a break for a little while. And then when I moved to Israel, I hit the ground running.
That was my next question. How did you continue doing that in Israel while you were trying to survive Aliyah?
And learn Hebrew at the same time.
Tax evasion. Mishpacha Israelit. My family's Israeli. My grandmother was born and raised in Ramat Aviv, but she went to America when she was younger to start a new life for herself. And like any good Jewish girl does, she met my grandfather, and after dating him for about 2 months, married him when she discovered he was a doctor. And they were together for like 40 plus years. That's how my family was born in America.
Wow.
Opportunists. And so I knew that I really wanted to get my life started, and I did social work in America for a while. I worked in the apartment industry. I worked in hospitals. I did all those really good cliche jobs upper middle class white male from America who refuses to speak another language does. But I wasn't really feeling fulfilled, and I really wanted to have an adventure. And I was in therapy one day because I am Jewish and I have a lot of daddy issues. And I was telling my therapist, I'm kind of in this rut and I really want to have an adventure. And we were talking about how I had this great interest of going back to Israel. I grew up coming here and I visited a lot, but I really wanted to study here. I was accepted to the University of Haifa when I was 18 years old. I was supposed to be a child development major. I was supposed to get my master's there also.
Yeah, remember I did tell you that that he was super smart, and I was being very honest.
Not at all.
In
I'm
saying
not.
that you are super smart. No, you're not. Just be all, yeah, no, he is.
I
And super
failed high school
talented.
math
It's
3
all
times.
good. Carry on.
And so I passed up on Haifa when I was a kiddo, and instead I stayed in Texas. But by the time I was 26, I was getting really kind of bored with my life. I wasn't really doing anything or going anywhere. I was in a stuck relationship, and so I told my therapist, I don't want to have a boring obituary. I really want to have this really fun adventure. So even if I fail, it's going to look glamorous on the page or the stage. I really want to have like some great failure story to tell the children I end up adopting. Like, you can do better than me.
I'll give you some.
Now, why does that sound so familiar to me? I think because Grant and I are both going to have this obituary that's going to be like, well, they did some crazy stuff.
And so in April of 2016, I applied for Aliyah, and on August 24th, 2016, I was boots down on the soil, and I started comedy, I think, late August or September of that year also. I hit the ground running. And
I remember seeing Mike the first time in the Dancing Camel.
Oh, I'm
Dancing
so sorry.
Camel. Yeah.
And I was so impressed.
all
I mean, it was
credit,
so
yeah.
authentic. It was so from another planet. It was I was enthralled. I mean, I was enchanted. It was wonderful.
You're too kind to me. I actually remember that very, very first show. I will never forget that show. My opening
You remember
line.
what you were dressed like?
Oh God, I used to dress like a prostitute. So
Yes.
like this, I dressed like this. I was probably wearing, let's see, that was August. Oh, I was definitely wearing ratty jeans, cowboy boots, spurs that were handmade by prisoners in Texas. True story. I have them with the Magen David and my initials, like true white trash, and a cowboy hat. And my opening line was, "Hello, my name is Mike Kroll. Thank you all for coming out to support my intervention tonight. There are some people from my office here, so if anyone's wondering, I'm going to need a new job by the end of this. If you want to hear my credentials, my resumes with the bar staff, if you want to hear my references, my phone number's written on the bathroom stall in the men's room." That was my opening line. It has not gotten any better since then.
I loved it. I loved it.
Absolutely. I remember meeting you at the Dancing Camel, and you were this brand new Ole, and we found you needed a lift home, and you said you lived in the Merkasli town, Renana. Remember that?
I immigrated to Ranana.
And we were there, and we gave you a ride home to the Merkasli town, and we're still doing it.
4 years later, I'm still poor.
Oh my goodness.
Stay in school, kids.
So here's a question for both of you, okay? Because, comedy, stand-up, it's considered one of the hardest jobs. Why do you do it?
Because it's hard.
Just because it's hard?
Yeah, like Rocky said to his son. He said, life is going to knock you down. But the secret is get up and keep moving. Just get up and keep moving, because life is going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's going to knock you down. Okay. And that's stand-up comedy. You just get up off your butt and you clean off the dust and you start again. Just keep moving. Just keep moving.
Wow, that to me is...
What about you?
That's why I spend life on my knees.
Oh, my God.
Now he's talking to himself.
This is a family show.
My
You would
God.
do
That
that
is a
for
family
me.
show.
I love comedy because of its brutal honesty.
Yes.
And definitely, and we were talking about this on the right here, that comedy, the form of comedy I do and the form of comedy that you do and what we grew up with doesn't exist anymore in this day and age. And it's really, really evident, especially it's very hard to be, there's a difference between being truthful and honest on stage. I'm always truthful with my stories are always true. But to be honest with the crowd, I think takes that backbone that really separates people who see this as a hobby and people who see it as a profession or a passion or a life calling. Yeah. I'll never forget, I did an hour and a half of stand-up once in Tel Aviv, and a young lady around my age, I'm 31, at the time I was probably 27 or 4, one of those, and she walked up to me after a show, and I told a story, and I have what I call a throwaway line in the story where, exactly, it's a line that I don't intend for it to be a punch or a joke in any way. It's just supposed to progress my story while keeping things interesting. And I was, to make a long story short, it's a 10-minute tale. I have this line where I'm in South Africa, and if you've ever been, it's a very, very beautiful country, and it's a beautiful airport. The Johannesburg airport, once you get past where the locals are allowed to go, is a very, very beautiful, beautiful airport. They're from South Africa. And you can attest to this. And
Yes.
and I make this joke saying, like, when you go there, you get to really see the true riches of Africa. You can shop for Armani suits or beautiful Gucci bags or cheap child labor or blood diamonds. Something to stuff in your bag before you get on the plane. And I don't even intend that to be like a punchline. It's just a stupid little thing I'll toss in there to progress my story. And the whole story culminates in me accidentally holding a plane hostage so I could go back and shop for my mom.
Which really happened.
Which really happened. I do not fly Air France anymore because I've been politely asked by the authorities never to ever set foot near those terminal gates again. But this young lady came up to me. She sat through an hour and a half of my show. I did some of it as a drag queen. And she came up and verbatim, in the same tone, cadence, and everything, walked up to me and said, "Oh my God, everything you just did was so funny. It was amazing. And I just want to start with, I'm an ally." First off, if anyone's watching that in America, if you couldn't tell by my wonderful manly voice, I'm very gay. Please do not walk up to a gay person and say you're an ally. That's treacherous. So
I'm the enemy.
Yeah, I much prefer to work with the enemy. We get a lot done. Bridge that gap. But, oh my God, I'm an ally. I love everything you do for this. But something that you said triggered me. And that's when my brain kind of switched. And I was like, I'm talking to, someone from my generation, this millennial generation that gets upset at everything. These are the exact kind of people that do not like me, which is why I have no friends. She said, what you said triggered me because I saw that movie Blood Diamond and the main actor died in it. And that was traumatizing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was my reaction. I was like, I'm sorry. All right, I would never say sorry. First off, I never apologize for anything I say on stage. I don't believe any comedian needs to. But I said, are you from South Africa? Are you? And she was like, no, I'm from Cali. Have you ever been there? Oh, no, diseases. What? Why were you so triggered? Because Matt Damon did such a great job in that movie. I was like, Leonardo DiCaprio was in that film. Like, that's the kind of, these people in particular are one of the core reasons I perform. Because I would much rather have an audience full of ignorant people who want to learn something than an audience of people who want to go and just watch a spectacle and not get anything out of it. That's why I only believe in comedians who say true things on stage, whether it's good or bad or funny or sad, because the job of a comedian is to hyperbolize and over-amplify what the world is at this point. That's our job, and not a lot of people are brave enough to get on stage and not hide behind a character. You can see it in news where anchors hide behind it. I'd rather get on stage and be completely honest.
Well, I think that's amazing, first of all, and kudos to you, very courageous. And I think that's what the theater really is all about. It is there to bring life and truth and show reality to people. And that's why it's such an incredible...
I'll give you Sir Laurence Olivier's answer to why he's an actor. He was sitting with Dustin Hoffman and he said, why are you an actor? Why did you choose acting? And he said, look at me, look at me, look at me. 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 Look at me.
Right there now. We're okay. That's so Laurence Olivier.
Look at me.
Mike?
Look at me. Don't look at Mike. Look at me. Look at me.
I'm going to put it back
Don't
to
look
Mike.
at him. Look at me.
No, Lenny. You sound like that. You sound like that Old Spice advert. The
Terry Crews.
The one, look at me, look at your man, look at me, look at me again. You know that one? That's what it sounds like. But you should see that advert if you, it's hysterical. I'm going to get us back on track. Who would you say is like your most revered comedian, dead or alive? But who is like your, and I want an answer from both of you of who, because you are both in that field.
For this. I love comedians who cause trouble. And I love comedians who are very unapologetic in their craft, especially when it transcends comedy. So I fully support comedians like Margaret Cho, Kathy Griffin, like strong female comedians I really, really gravitate towards. Even when I have the choice to watch, as many as I can, I always like to watch female comedians, especially female comedians who come from different backgrounds, mostly because this industry is so hard to break into, not just comedy, but performing arts and everything else. It's very hard for women to break into it because people don't seem to take it seriously, but you get the most serious, truthful, honest comedy from female comedians, which I love very much so, as well as one of my favorite comedians of all time is Richard Pryor, who is not a female, but Richard Pryor.
I noticed that.
Yeah, you know, every now and then, it's really hard in this day and age. I mean, people think I'm trans, but it's really hard in this day and age. Like, one of my favorite Richard Pryor bits of all time is there was a very famous news story about how Richard Pryor's hair got set on fire and he was running down the street with it. And I remember the special that happened afterwards where he said, "You want to see my best celebrity impression? I do an impression of myself." And he lit a match and he said, "Look, it's Richard Pryor running down the street." And I was like, I would love a career like that.
That's true.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, Lenny, now your turn.
I think the guru of all comedy for me is George Carlin.
Yes.
He has a wonderful way with words. He's the modern Shakespeare. And he's bold, and he comes from a generation that, like Lenny Bruce and the rest, that had to break through all that. Yeah. And also today, Dave Chappelle, he's just automatically super funny, and he even laughs at his own jokes. He even says, "I'm so funny that I tell the punchline before I do the joke," and then he gives the punchline. And then he goes around and starts talking, and then he comes back to the punchline. And
it was genius. I watched that special. He has a fishbowl in his house with random punchlines written down.
Yeah.
Both
okay,
great
now we're
female
taking
comedians.
the questions back to the real important questions. What was your first car?
Oh, crap. So if anyone out there hates my generation, get ready to hate it a lot more. My very first automobile was a 1991 British imported Jaguar XJS wood panel inlay racing car.
This is where we should have had a splashed up image.
Classic emblem, not the cat, the actual coin, hunter green, with the original VIN number from the UK on the door where you step in
Where
to the car.
did you steal it from?
Deprived.
Oh, sorry. Hi, my name's Michael Kroll. I come from a upper middle class white family in Texas that votes on both sides of the political spectrum, so we're very blessed and favored. I'm an Israeli, so that means I don't take criticism very well at all. Please come to my shows. I'm poor. We found it in San Antonio, Texas. The day we bought it, the car shop was trying to show off like the beautiful British manufacturing and all that.
Right,
and he pops the hood, and the hood pops in these older cars where it pops outwards.
Yes.
So like pops up from the thing. He rips the cord out. And so the hood is holding on by like one thing. I have to drive 3 hours with this car bobbing up and down.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It was
on the safety latch.
It was a beautiful car, though. It was absolutely beautiful. It looked great in the driveway for 4 years.
Wow, that's impressive. I wanted to ask you your favorite dish.
I'm partial to a butter dish, but I'm not opposed to a good casserole dish if it's Pyrex and it fits in the oven.
As in a food source, maybe, like what type of food?
Well, Mike is very famous for making things.
That's how I met my boyfriend. I used to have a cooking show on Facebook, and I called it a cooking show because it sounds a lot better than saying whenever I would get really inebriated late at night that I would go home and try to make 3 things out of salt and cucumbers and prayers. I do like to experiment with cooking. One of my favorite things to cook with is tofu, which just breaks my mother's heart because we are from Texas. We're a big like meat and potatoes kind of family. She has a kosher kitchen, two of everything, very much like the Ark if it was a butcher shop. But I love cooking with tofu, and I'm very partial to a green bean casserole or anything that my boyfriend makes because it's free.
Okay, on to another serious question. I'm bouncing back to you, Lenny.
Yes.
How are you handling the pandemic? I know you said you're glad that everyone's like now in your situation.
Well, it's fine. I'm very comfortable with it. My kids are out of work, but luckily they have a rich dad. But nobody's getting paid for it. My son is an actor. So
I know. Let's mention who your son is.
My daughter's a tourist guide. Good luck with that. And so it's you know, so it's you know, you have to deal with these things. But I have a way of just, you know, looking at things and having fun with it. I mean, that's I sort of look at things with an entertaining eye. I mean, I watch what's going on all over the world, and it's very, very hard if you take that stuff seriously.
Yeah,
but if you're able to stand back and sit in the audience of your own life, you know, watching your own drama, and just sitting in the audience and having some popcorn and watching yourself getting sucked into a conversation or something, it's like being a witness but not really being involved. And I see everything that's happening as entertaining. It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
Now, on that note, and I appreciate that. We will come back to you, but we have a very special guest here with us tonight. His name is Elad Shippony, and he's also known as the Wandering Israeli. So you can go ahead and unmute yourself, Elad, and say hi to everyone. Obviously, he hasn't been able to wander very far because of the COVID. So instead, he has taken to his own backyard, per se, and has discovered the world of kibbutzim. And every week, and this is like pretty terrifying for Elad because it's a commitment, and commitments are hard and scary. But hopefully Elad will give us a story on a kibbutz every week. Elad, how many kibbutzim, remind me, how many kibbutzim are there? And then just go ahead, take it away and tell us the story.
Let me make sure that you can all hear me. Can you hear me there?
Great sound.
Lenny, can you hear me?
They hear?
If Lenny can hear me, that means that everybody can hear me, right? Can Lenny hear me? Can you hear me? Cool. Lenny!
Well, we
wanna
can't hear you in the
book.
studio, but it's working.
I want to show you this book. Show this book. This is a book. It's a really, really good book that I really, I recommend everybody buys it. It's a book written by the one and only Lenny Ravich. Very funny, hilarious, uplifting, especially during these days of Corona. I'm here, as you can see, I'm here at center stage behind me. Actually, I'm actually with Daniela, together with me. The truth is that over the past 6 months, I haven't been performing at all. This is where I normally perform. This is the stage in the Kamri Theater, where we perform The Wandering Israeli, but it just makes me feel comfortable now that I can wander anywhere I want from the backyard. I live on a kibbutz. And during this time that I haven't been working on the show or wandering around Israel or performing wherever we are booked, I've had time to connect with one of my big loves, which is the love of the kibbutz. It's where I live. Now, I don't know if Lenny can hear me or not, but Lenny and I, we actually share a producer that his name is Manny, and he lives on a kibbutz called Kfar Charuv. And sharing a producer is like sharing an unfaithful wife, I'd say. Sometimes she books him and puts me aside, and sometimes he books me and puts her aside. But it's all done in good, good humor, and we're really, really fortunate to have him. And he lives up north on a kibbutz called Kfar Charuv. And I live on a kibbutz called Kibbutz Magal. And this is what it looks like during Shavuot, during the holiday, which is most identified with the kibbutz, Shavuot. And with this picture in my background, I'll tell you a little bit about what you see here, which is called kibbutzvisit.com, which is a website that I built while I was thinking what to do, what would my next step be with sharing Israel with the world and sharing what I love about Israel with the world. I grew up in Los Angeles. 17 years old, I moved to Israel. I'll move back to center stage. 17 years old, I moved to Israel, and people back in the States, they didn't really understand why I wanted to move to Israel, because it's so dangerous there. And I found out how dangerous it was when I was walking through the war-torn streets of Tel Aviv, and the cafes and the markets. And after I was enlisted in the army, I was adopted by a kibbutz. Now, a kibbutz was a really, really new concept for me. I had no idea what it was, what it meant. But suddenly everything was shared, and everyone was equal, and everything was free. You could go to the dining hall and you could get food for free. You would you want to take a car, you just go and get the keys and don't pay for gas. And then there was what I considered the highlight of kibbutz society to be, which was the central laundromat. It's a place where we would all go and throw our dirty laundry on a regular basis every morning and come back at the end of the day to pick it up. And it was all washed and pressed and folded and perfumed, ready to put neatly back into your closet. And sometimes when your closet was all in disarray and all the clothes were clean, but everything was just thrown all over the place, the best thing to do was just to go to the central laundromat and to throw all the clean clothes and get them back at the end of the day, all washed, pressed, folded, and perfumed, ready to put right back into your closet. So that was one of the advantages of living on a kibbutz. Now, luck would have it that the kibbutz that had adopted me was kibbutz Mishmar HaSharon, which is about 20 minutes north of Ra'anana, where you guys are at. And at the time, I was a lone soldier, and the man who was the commander-in-chief of the Israeli Defense Force was from Mishmar HaSharon. His name is Ehud Barak, or at the time, Lieutenant General Ehud Barak. And my next door neighbor on the kibbutz was Esther, his mother, who worked at the central laundromat occasionally, especially on Saturdays when the soldiers would come. And I think that only in Israel could it be possible or conceivable that the mother of the most decorated soldier in the history of Israel, the mother of Lieutenant General Ehud Barak, was washing, pressing, folding, and perfuming the uniform of Private Second Class Elad Shippony. And after I was released from the army, I loved the life there so much that I stayed to live and to enjoy the carefree and barefoot life of the kibbutz. And sometime around the end of November, it was 1994, all the kibbutz members, they got together at the central clubhouse to watch TV. I mean, people at this time already had TVs at their home, but they were already used to watching TV together, and this was a very special moment. It wasn't just to watch TV, it was to watch a live broadcast of history being made, of the signing of peace between Jordan and Israel, between King Hussein of Jordan and Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. And in the background stood Clinton, and behind him was the commander-in-chief of the Israeli Defense Force, the boy who had grown up on that very kibbutz I was watching the signing of peace happen, Esther's little kid, Ehud Barak. And every moment I said to myself that I want to do more than just watch peace being made. I wanted to really take an actual part in it. And I decided to learn Arabic. And now that the borders were open, I just went to Jordan and I learned Arabic. And actually, the story of going to learn Arabic became sort of the main story of the show that I do, called The Wandering Israeli. I do it in English, in Hebrew, and in Spanish, and now we do it on Zoom once a week, and we've been kind of moving forward all along and kind of figuring out how to work with Zoom even better.
It's incredible what you are doing, Elad. You are one of those people who is reinventing theater together with us, and we love that, and we love that you are part of us and that you are with us. So thank you so much for that beautiful story. And honestly, people, if you want to see,
I'm glad to be here at center stage.
Please share with everybody here, if you can, on the comments, your link to The Wandering Israeli. Please see it. It's an incredible, incredible show. If you've seen it on stage, it's very different to what he's doing on Zoom. And it's just incredible. He's fantastic. So please feel free. And we look forward to having Elad here, visiting different kibbutzim all around Israel. Thank you so much, Elad. Thank you.
Keep moving forward with all that great energy, and you know, great things will happen. You just have to move ahead, and you're doing a wonderful job and inspiring a lot of people, and especially me as well. So keep moving.
Thank you so much, Elad.
Thank you
so much for doing this.
You're an inspiration. Thank you so much. Thank you. So we're going to finish off now because we've really, he's got an amazing show, an amazing show. Yeah. And we had him here at Center Stage, and please God, when we can open our doors again, we will have him back. So, so we're going to finish off this interview. First of all, guys, thank you so much for being with us. It's been so much fun. I hope you've enjoyed it. But we're going to finish off with, like, James Lipton had those 10 questions that he used to ask actors. It's the questionnaire by Bernard Pivot, based on Marcel Proust, from what I understand. This is my investigation into the matter, and I found all these wonderful questions. So I'm going to ask you, and you can answer. Just keep it brief, so that we're not here. We've got 10 questions. So here we go. Lenny, what is your idea of perfect happiness?
This moment.
I love it. Mike.
Oh goodness, enjoying every moment on stage.
Every moment on stage.
Every moment on stage.
Next question. What is the trait you most deplore in others?
Anything that I see in myself that I project on them.
Okay.
Well, it's like everybody is me in drag.
Hi.
And I notice when I see myself in other people, I either have a choice to love them because they're me, or to despise them because they're me. And I choose to love them because they're me.
Mike?
The trait I just
deplore in other people.
Oh my goodness, an inability to let go of ignorance.
Let go of what?
Let go of ignorance.
An inability to let go of ignorance. Well, that's the thing. I openly say I'm ignorant. I'm very ignorant. I'm an American. I'm super ignorant. But I at least admit it, and I'm willing to change that.
What do you consider is the most overrated virtue?
Lenny?
Well, I was in Odessa doing a workshop in Gestalt and humor, and one of the participants pulled me to the side. He said that Ukraine is the most corrupt country in the world, and I said, "You're wrong. Israel is." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because we had a prime minister and a treasurer and a secretary and minister of education all in jail at the same time." He said, "Well, at least you arrest them." So I thought that arresting people is one of the worst things in the world. You should just let them run free like worms. Or roaches.
Or roaches. Next question, Mike. On what occasion do you lie?
Oh, Christ. Whenever I'm in drag and I tell people I'm a beautiful, beautiful black woman.
Well, you are.
I know, right? Oh, goodness. I guess the serious answer was I had to pretend to be straight at my university because they offer reparative therapy to people who aren't, or they will expel them. It was in the handbook when I was a kid. Yeah, I'm not afraid to say it. Bring it on. Come after me. I'll be there next year, UNHB. But when I lie for...
Wasn't there a law that was just passed that was like about that very thing here in Israel?
Well, we know
Something
organized
like that,
religion and laws don't really go hand in hand.
Lenny?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. In drag, I guess as a joker, I lie about being straight, but for the most part, I try to be as blatantly as honest as possible, which is not always good for people.
What's the question?
On what occasion do you lie?
All the time.
He speaks my truth.
All right, so Lenny,
Yes.
which talent would you most like to have?
Which what?
Talent.
Which talent would I most like to have? I would like the talent to, I really would love to have a talent to be a fighter pilot, a Navy fighter pilot on an aircraft carrier. Oh, yeah. That was my dream from a younger age. And I was offered to join the Navy when I was in college and become a pilot. Yeah. But I couldn't even drive a car at that time, so I chose just to join the Army. I was in the United States Army. And then I came to Israel, and they drafted me into the Israeli army, and they made me a battlefield medic. And I told them, don't do that. And they said, I said, I faint when I see blood. And they said, we don't care, we need medics.
Next question. What is your favorite possession?
Oh, my goodness. My free will. Oh, hit you with the truth.
Mic drop.
I know. Please don't drop the mic. It's very expensive. I'm priceless.
Lenny. Lenny, your most treasured possession.
My most, the ability to choose how I respond to every situation.
I'm impressed that neither of you chose an object or a thing of any sort.
You want
It
an
was both
object?
an
I'll
ability.
give you an object. keep it straight.
Okay, here's another question, Mike. What would you consider your greatest achievement so far?
Oh my goodness. Lean America? No. My greatest achievement I got to do some comedy work back in America a few months ago, and it was really, really cool. I got to do 3 shows, 2 in New York City, 1 at a very, very, very famous cabaret called Duplex on Christopher Street, wherein my boyfriend got to sing next door at the famous Stonewall Inn, which is a very, very famous gay landmark. And one of my favorite achievements, it's not bragging to say I had many, it's just because I'm really grateful for what I have and everything I've done. I've built this career from scratch, but I was able to go back home and I was introduced as Mike Kroll, an Israeli comedian. And one of my big goals in comedy, I'm really happy that I picked comedy back up and chose to do it as a full-time profession in Israel, is every time I get on stage, I want to showcase that Israel isn't what you see on the news and that we're not these barbaric people. And it really upset me. I took my boyfriend with me. He's a very, very gifted singer. And he got stopped by security 4 times in 3 airports because of the way he looks. He's an Iraqi Libyan Jew from Israel. And I had to tell each of these security people that I'm a much bigger threat than anything he could ever hope to whip out in his duffel bag. I'm a left-wing American who has no qualms about going to jail. Like, I will say whatever I need to. I'm much scarier than he is.
I will tear down statues to get to jail.
I'm trying to get arrested, please. It's great PR for my business.
Back to you, Lenny.
Yes.
Your greatest achievement.
I never achieved anything. Really. I never achieved anything. All I do is follow orders. I get my orders from above, and I'm just a good soldier. And I guess because I just follow what I'm told to do, and it's not an achievement. It's just following God's word and way.
Well, I think that's very humble, and I'm just kind of like thinking,
Humble, eh?
Lenny, okay. So, final question, and each of you has to answer it very quickly. Lenny, if you were to die and come back as a person or a thing, who or what would it be?
Me.
I like that. That's him.
This has been fun. It's been an 84-year fun.
Mike, what about you?
Sure.
Oh, evil doesn't die. I'm going to live forever.
You're going to live forever.
If
so
I could
far,
come
so
back,
good.
If I could come back as any one thing, I like George Carlin's view of the universe, where he says we're kind of made of each other, and we're all made of what the universe is. So once we die, we just kind of become part of the universe. So I'm really excited to become a son. That way everyone can revolve around me. Since I'm an only child, everything already does.
Look at me, look at me, look at me. Look
Oh,
at
good. Here we go. You started him. Guys, thank you so much for being our wonderful, wonderful guests on Q Center Stage.
These days, to bring this kind of thing, you're amazing, and I applaud
Thank you. I applaud you guys as well. Thank you so much. And guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll be joining us every week. We will have different and varied guests, and we'll announce tomorrow who we're going to have next week. But please keep on coming, keep on supporting the arts. It's so important. And especially these people, these artists who are not allowed to do what they're allowed to do at the moment. They don't have the opportunity. Just support them in any way you can, just by being here, laughing, enjoying with them, and enjoying their talent. So thank you so much, everyone.
We had a great time.
And we'll see you next week. Bye. Good night.